Hello students, welcome to this video about Chapter 8, Project Management. So we're going to go through the three different types of situations that we are working with. First, just the basic one, CPM, Critical Path Management. So we have this project, 7 activities showing the predecessors and showing the activity time for each one of these. So I'm going to draw this out. Let's see here, we're going to start off Activity 1. Activity 2 has a predecessor for Activity 1, so it has to happen after Activity 1. Activity 3 also follows Activity 1. Activity 4 has both predecessors of Activity 2 and 3. So we're going to kind of draw it like this. There's Activity 4. Same thing for Activity 5. Activity 5 has to follow both Activities 2 and 3. So let's put it like this. Then we have Activity 6 following Activity 7, or following Activity 5, I should say, and then Activity 7 following both Activities 4 and 6. So that's how we're going to draw out this project. Various activities. This is a good example for us to work on because it shows various predecessors and showing us what to do to establish the project time. First thing we're going to do is establish the time to complete this project. So how I do project management is instead of putting all the numbers within the circle or the square, whatever we have, I put them on the outside. So basically each of the activities has a certain activity number, and then we're going to go with the earliest start, upper left corner, earliest finish, and then we just want to switch colors to emphasize this. So we go backwards to latest finish, and then the latest start time. So that's what we're going to do. This way will enable us to determine the project time, and then as we go backwards to fill in the latest start and finish times, we can establish the critical path. So Activity 1 starts off with 0. The earliest it can finish is Activity 3. Activity 2 follows Activity 1, so Activity 1, or Activity 2 I should say, has to start once Activity 1 is completed. So Activity 2 is going to start at time period 3. Let's assume these are months, and it's going to last for 2 months. Activity 3 will likewise start at time month 3, and it only goes for 1 month. So Activity 4 and Activity 5 both have to happen after Activities 2 and 3 are completed. So the earliest Activity 4 can start is when both activities that are listed as the predecessors are completed. Activity 2 won't be completed until time month 5, whereas Activity 3 will finish at time month 4. Activity 4 has to start after both are completed, so that gives us the earliest start time for Activity 4. Likewise, for Activity 5, it's going to be time period 5. Activity 4 takes 3 months. Sorry, while this is... There we go. Activity 4 takes 3 months. Activity 5 takes 1 month. Activity 6 happens after Activity 5. So Activity 6 is going to be 6 months when it can start. It lasts for 1 month. So Activity 7 can only start after the predecessor activities are completed. So Activity 7 has to wait until Activity 4 and Activity 6 is completed. Activity 4 will be completed at time month 8, and Activity 6 will be completed at the 7th month. So Activity 7 basically has to start. The earliest it can start is when Activity 4 is completed. Activity 7 takes 1 month, so Activity 9 or Activity 7 will be completed at the 9-month mark. So basically, the project time, 9 months. let's switch colors to work backwards. We work backwards in order to determine the critical path. So the last activity, this is where we started off. It only has one last activity, so this will be 8 or 9, and activity 7. The latest they can start is activity 8. So we can go backwards to project or activity 6. Activity 6 the latest it can finish, this number here, has to be in time for activity 7 to start at the latest time period. So this is going to be activity or time period 8. It lasts for 1 month. So we have 7. So there's a difference between the red and blue numbers, the top numbers, the earliest times and the latest times. That gives us the slack. So activity 6 has a slack of 1 month. So now we have to work backwards for activity 4. Activity 4 has to be completed in order for activity 7 to start at time month 8. So activity 4 is 8. The latest I can start is time month 5. So activity 4 and 7, you notice that the top numbers are the same. The earliest times and the latest times are the same. So that means that activity 4 and 7 are on the critical path. Activity 5, the latest it can finish is just enough time for activity 6 to start at the latest time. So that'll be 7, goes for 1 month. That's activity 6. So now, both activities 2 and 3, the latest they can finish, they have to finish in enough time for both activities 4 and 5 to start. So activity 2 has to finish in enough time for activity 4 and activity 5 to start. So activity 2 has to finish at month 5 because activity 4 needs to start at month 5. Whereas activity 5, they could start at 6. But so there's a slack. They could start at 5 or they could start at 6. So activity 2 takes 2 months to complete, so that's going to be 3. Same thing with activity 3. It needs to finish in enough time for activity 4 to start, for its latest start time. So activity 3's latest finish time has to be in enough time for activity 4 to start. And activity 3 takes 1 month to complete, and we're down to 4. So same thing with activity 1. Activity 1 needs to finish in enough time for activity 2 and activity 3 to start. So this one has to be 3. If activity 1 finished at 4, it would be in enough time for activity 3 to start, but there would be a delay in activity 2, and we can't have that as we're trying to determine the critical path. So the critical path activities are those activities that do not have a slack, that the earliest times in red are the same as the latest times in blue. So the critical path will be 1, 2, 4, and 7. So for the other activities, we can calculate the slack. So activity 1 is not going to have any slack. Critical path activities, there's no slack. They need to start at the time listed. So activity 3 is not on a critical path, and it has a slack of 1 month. There's a difference between 1 in the earliest times and the latest times. Activity 5, same thing, slack of 1. Activity 6, same thing, a slack of 1. Knowing the slack time enables the project manager to determine or to know when certain activities can start and when they must finish by, the earliest start and the latest start. So that's our first example of looking at project management.